You're listening to the Big Sci Fi Podcast, the biggest sci fi podcast in the galaxy, with Adina, Brian, Chris, and Steve. We're a part of the Trek Geeks Podcast Network, and we're having more fun than ever celebrating our 10th season and 4 years of friendship talking all things science fiction. Calling all sci-fi fans, you're invited to the party. Let's have some fun.
Apocalypse, extinction, annihilation. Do I have your attention yet? I guess I do. Well, I hope so. These words are some of the most scariest words used in both literature and in films or TV shows. In reality, there have been 5 recorded extinction events in Earth's history. The most notable is from the Jurassic period. They gave us our lovely oil. And in biblical history, the Great Flood is always a favorite story to tell the kids to keep them in line. On TV, we had 2 series devoted to heavenly bodies hitting the Earth, both aptly named Meteor and Asteroid. But in movies, we've had more like Armageddon, which we discussed some time ago in our episode, Armageddon, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Then there was Deep Impact that arrived at theaters the same year. And one featured an asteroid, the other a comet that were headed our way. And we also had one of our all-time favorites, Moonfall, about the moon crashing into Earth and crashing as a film. Yet, in each of these excellent movies, humanity was successful in preventing the Earth's destruction, usually at the expense of a main character or someone else in the film. Especially in Moonfall, we lost our friend with irritable bowel issues, which was very sad. Yet, what if we weren't successful? That end of the Earth story was covered in the 2021 film Don't Look Up, and the film we're discussing today, When Worlds Collide. Now, there are a lot of similarities in each of the films, and we'll get to that in our discussion. The biggest difference is our knowledge of extraterrestrial rocks in space today and how to track them using, track their movement using the Planetary Defense Coordination Office. Yet, when the book When Worlds Collide was written in 1933, our knowledge of the movement of space debris was much more limited than now. And when the film of this same name debuted in the theaters 75 years ago, we were still just beginning to understand outer space rocks. Yes, this movie is 5 years older than me. So when watching a film like this, keep in mind of what we know now from what we knew then. And with that long dissertation out of the way, let me introduce my fellow stargazers. Adina.
Hi, everybody.
Brian.
Yo, 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 yo.
Is that a Duncan? And Chris. And
Hey,
I'm
everybody.
Steve. Hello, Chris.
We need to wrap this up because we only have 79 hours until the end, so we got to keep moving. We're behind schedule.
Keep going, keep going. The one
We're
thing we
still
can't
behind
afford.
schedule.
Yes.
We're still behind schedule.
Always behind schedule. And I'm Steve, and I'm happy to talk about this film that has been a favorite of mine since I was a little kiddo. So, without further ado, now I don't even have to ask this question, when's the first time you saw it? Because I'm pretty darn sure it's in the last few days, or maybe even the last few hours. But for me, I saw this film when I was a kid, and I saw it on television. And I absolutely thought it, and I saw it in black and white. I didn't get to appreciate the beauty of the color of it, but I got to see it in black and white on my TV, and I thought it was just amazing. And at that point, the film was only about maybe 10 years old, so it was still pretty fresh. But what happened was, when I was in middle school, I seeked out the book When Worlds Collide, and I read it, and also the follow-up book After Worlds Collide, so I got the whole story. I guess they were going to make a sequel to this, but they never got around to it. So with that in mind, and with that stated, what did you folks think of seeing a film that's enjoying I guess it's the Diamond Jubilee? Is that right? For 70 years? Is that the Diamond Jubilee?
70,
Yeah.
75,
75,
75,
75. Yes, I
75.
think
I
that's
don't know.
time. So, well, anyway, tell me, folks, in your own humble ways, what you thought of this movie.
I have to say, I was really impressed. This was one where it sounded interesting, and I love the concept of it. But I'm always like, not even just with older movies, but with any movie, I'm like, okay, how long is it going to take to actually get into the plot? And I like that it immediately started. It's like, okay, we've got this information, it's happening, world's going to end, and I was like drawn into it. I remember being like on the bus yesterday. I was coming home. I'm like, oh, let me see if I can start it. And then I was kind of annoyed when I got to my stop because I was like, I'm actually really enjoying this. I don't want to stop watching it. So yeah, I was hooked. I have other thoughts about it. There's some like minor criticisms, but overall, I really enjoyed it.
Dina or Brian?
Yeah,
I guess I can go.
I I really was pleasantly surprised by this film. I kind of wondered if I would like it, Steve, because it is kind of in that classic sci-fi realm, and with all of the we talk endlessly in other films we've watched of kind of tropes of current society as film is being made that ends up in the films and things that make us go, oh gee golly, come on. But I found that this film had a level of charm to it I really enjoyed. Had a couple twists that hopefully we'll talk about that I thought were actually kind of good. And maybe even inventive and ahead of its time a bit. Maybe, I don't know. We'll let you guys be the judge of that. But overall, this film was a good length. It didn't drag on and on, which was good.
Yeah, it's about 83 minutes, I think it is, something like that.
Yeah. So
very
I
respectable
found
time.
this film very watchable and pleasant to watch. So those are my opening comments. I've got more, of course, as we go on.
Perfect. And finally, the true scientists in the group, Adina.
Yeah, so I watched it a few evenings ago, first time ever. Although I want to say vaguely aware that this film existed. Just,
Okay.
There's old movies that we've heard the name of, and you're vaguely aware. So I was vaguely aware, but I'd never seen it before. And it was very, very watchable. There were a few parts that I thought were slow, but given, I'm trying, it's what I try to do with some of the old movies is to remember. I wasn't alive in 1951, so I'm not remembering 1951.
Right. Neither was I, thank goodness.
Right. But I'm trying to think back to kind of the state of the world. And I think when we talked about Forbidden Planet a couple years ago already, remembering that these movies were made before, not just before we touched down on the moon, but before any satellite, before the first satellite even launched. So there were, suborbital rockets, but that was it. And just so much technology that we take for granted and so much that we can do in outer space and detect and everything just didn't exist in 1951. I mean, 1951, this is not too long after we had discovered other galaxies. For a long time, galaxies were these fuzzy stars. And it was, I got to go back and look up, but it was within 1 to 2 decades of 1951 is when we started to resolve that, hey, these are clusters of stars, not just fuzzy points of light. So with all that in mind, this was, I would say, I was pretty impressed.
That makes me feel very well and very good because this is one of those films that is just, when you get to see it in color, it really pops. And that's why when I saw it the first time in color, and believe it or not, at my local middle school, they used to do in the summertime, they would run old movies just for us to watch. And one of them I got to see finally was When Worlds Collide in color. And I was just like, I think one of the most iconic moments in film history is the launching of the rocket from this film. I think it's been one of those studies of special effects that shows just how well you can do model making and producing something as unique as that spectacular launch. Yeah.
That's not, again, the special effects, again, trying to put it in context of 1951.
Right.
There were some parts that were like okay, but then some of the the background art, like the quality varied so much throughout the movie of the special effects and of a lot of that.
Yeah.
I was surprised, I guess, is
especially the end of the film. I've always they write about how they chose to use that painted backdrop for the planet when they land in a snow. They land in almost like the polar ice caps, and this door opens up. You think, oh my god! And then they pan out, and you've got this caricature artwork of what the scenery is, with music playing, and when I was a kid, I in black and white.
Did they run out of money?
There's something about that.
That was my first thought. Is like they ran out of money at the end of the film, and this is all they could do.
There's something about that in Wikipedia. I looked it up. I don't remember exactly what it was, but there was some discussion about the usage of that painted backdrop for the planet, and it just when I finally saw it in color, I was like, that's not right. In black and white, it seems fine, but in color, it's like, that's not right. After all these
Wizard of Ozzy to me.
Huh?
It felt Wizard of Ozzy to me. Like I just recently rewatched that again. And
that's a good point. Yes, it does have a Wizard of Oz quality to it.
It's the 50s. I'm like, okay, it's not too bad. It's there.
Yeah. The producer of this film is George Powell. And if you look up the body of his work, it was all remarkable special effects. And he was the one, he created in the 1940s a series of shorts called Puppetoons. And they establish stop motion animation that was used by Tim Burton to make Nightmare Before Christmas, the same style of individual pieces for individual movements, things like that. And that's where he was so famous for until he got into live action movies. And I think this was his first. But if you've seen War of the Worlds from 1956, that's his film. Yeah. And if you've seen one of my favorites of his, it's just The Seven Faces of Dr. Lao, which is a wonderful movie. Also his work. And The Time Machine.
The 1960 Time Machine.
Yeah. And all these are beautiful color films with whimsical stories. And that's what he was. He was really a specialist at that types of films. So taking on this project of taking a book like, and it's 1951. We just ended, World War II is just 6 years over. And we're watching a film where the earth is destroyed. And you're asking the American public to watch a film after literally the world coming to an end militarily and politically during World War II. To watch a film like this in the theaters was pretty remarkable. And I give him a lot of credit for taking on a film of this nature and this storyline as well. So what did you think of the characters? I mean, like you said, they're, as you said, Dean and Brian and Chris, there are a lot of caricatures for it. And there's a lot of, like you say, cringy moments, where
it wasn't as cringy, I think. I feel like I remember Forbidden Planet being a little bit more cringy than this. And I don't know if you guys remember that I was so intrigued by Forbidden Planet. I did read the book, and the book was cringy as all get out. In that,
really?
that book, I don't remember. I remember the book being stereotypical of the time, where like it's like all white American men, and that's it. And the way they talked about and treated women were very, again, very, very stereotypical for the time. Yeah. This, as a movie, wasn't as bad. Yes, it's pretty much all, white men, and then you've got the daughter character, and you notice things like they separate out the men and the women, but that wasn't cringy in the sense that was kind of the way it was, and it wasn't. no, I didn't see anything where they were disrespecting them. Like there wasn't any like, oh honey, go get me coffee. You know, like I
Right.
didn't see any of that. You know,
Mhm.
the daughter, she was she was in the room with all of them as they were learning the information, discovering. You know, she wasn't like she was treated, I would say, normally. And while they had like the work that the women were doing were more administrative, librarianish kinds of stuff,
Right.
it wasn't. And I didn't see it as in a kind of disrespectful way. It's like, hey, this is the work that's getting done. We're doing this. You're doing that.
Yeah.
Done. And actually, the daughter, she was doing some calculating too. You know, double checking and calculating. And when I originally saw them, you know, they bring in the men and they bring in the women. I was wondering if they were going to show the women as computers.
Right.
Because before computers existed, that was what a computer was. A computer was a person who computed. And it was usually these large, you know, rooms of women, and they did the computing. So if anyone has read the book Hidden Figures or seen Hidden Figures, it goes through all of this. So this was actually less cringy than like, I was expecting it to be I was buckled in, ready for this is going to be cringe as all get out, and it absolutely wasn't.
That's good. Was there a particular character, Brian, that you liked the most? Was there is a bad guy in the story, and he is, and he's definitely without
in a
question,
wheelchair.
he is a bad guy.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
You know, but
He's
it was
a wealthy bad guy.
wealthy bad guy who finances it. But in the end, I love that line. You know, the future is for the young. And as he gets pushed away, he does the whole, you know, Dr. Strangelove bit where he stands up in the all of a sudden he can stand, you know. At the end of the film, you're like, okay, that's fine. Or when he shoots his own manservant.
Yeah.
Because he shows that he has no respect for other people. You know, he is definitely he's the evil billionaire in the film. But it always got to me that, you know, in these types of films, the hero is from the very start of the film, the guy that's given the satchel to take. And he makes it all the way to the end. And for some reason, he's so charming. The boss's daughter falls in love with him, even though she's going to marry this other guy. And the other guy openly says, it's okay.
He was very gallant about it.
Yes, you know, to the point
real hero of the film,
right,
is the Dr. Tony Drake, played by Peter Hansen.
Yes.
He is my favorite character because I think there's been plenty of plots in films where a really nice guy is in love with the girl, but she's not in love with him. And I think he is the hero of the film because he does the right thing. He proves that he cares for her immensely. And also, like, honestly, like, I love in this film, one of the things that I spoke about earlier that I want to talk about now, between Dr. Tony Drake and David Randall in the film, and David Randall played by Richard Dare, they kind of go back and forth for a hot second. There's that helicopter scene on the roof with the kid, and and Dr. Tony like is ready to fly off and leave his butt there, so you know he can get the girl, and the other guy can perish and be stranded. But I thought that was a nice thing. I think it also, honestly, very Star Trek-y that they had these two fellows come together and work it out and work in peace together for the greater good. I thought that was really a nice touch to this film. And unexpected too, frankly.
It was a show of the doctor's character when he goes back for him and he goes, I thought you weren't going to come back. But
I almost didn't.
Exactly.
At least they were honest with each other.
Yes, well, they were. Oh boy, thank you. And then he goes so far as
sometimes you gotta go through that with somebody to become friends, though, right? You gotta get to the edge of doing the absolute wrong thing to say, hey, wait a minute, what are we doing? And it can actually cause you to bond together because you've been through that together. So
to the point where he lies to him about the condition of the pilot of the spacecraft so that he becomes part of the mission. I mean, again, he's, from the very start, he's going to make it all the way to the very end. He's going to get the girl. And what I always love about these films is something that the great publisher and money man, William Randolph Hearst, once said, which is, if you want to sell something, put a pretty girl, a little kid, or a dog in the advertisement. And so what's in this film?
Three.
You got all three, right down to the little dog in the film, know? And the cute.
And the dog
kid.
had puppies.
That's right.
Sorry, spoiler alert.
That's okay.
Yeah,
but
this is like
film. So
this is also kind of like in for a brief moment or two, Noah's Ark, in outer space on this rocket as they're have all these goats and cows and things like that in there to sustain them on the new world.
And this is where some of the ridiculous details come in that I was just kind of laughing at. So when they touch down, they all go outside, and they the one guy's like, "Hey, we got to test the air," and the other guy's like, "Look, it doesn't matter. We're here, so we might as well go out." But the fact that they were already bringing animals out as they went out, I thought that was a little hokey.
Usually it's the canary in the coal mine. You maybe put a goat out. You put a goat out and you go, well, okay, he just collapsed.
Then
I guess
we need to test the air. Don't open the hatch. That is what it is. Open the hatch.
Yeah. Which again, I get it to some degree. It is what it is. They're stuck there. They're either quick death or slow death, right? So take your pick if the air is unbreathable.
Right.
So I know. So going out, choosing to go out, I get that. But the fact that they're going out with the animals right away.
Yeah.
It's so you got to go back, get the animals. Where are you bringing them? You're bringing where are you going to put them? You don't go out, then come back and figure out what you're doing with the animals. So little things like that. We're really? Yeah. What you doing here?
My thing was the timeline. If I guess 8 months could be enough time if you get if you get enough people working on those arcs in
time. Maybe in 1951, not today.
Because I feel that would take way too long. And they only said there were 600 people working on them, which seemed a little low. He said there's over 600 workers on this. I'm like, is that enough? That's where I was like, okay, I feel like maybe the timeline was a little short.
Well, the same thing in the UN meeting when they're at the beginning, right? Can we build spacecraft? Well, we've never done it before, but sure can. Let's give it a try. Yeah. It's it doesn't work that way, kids, as you well know, Adina.
But sometimes, I mean, again, this is where you have to appreciate, right? This movie was done before it had ever been done. So no one knows. No one really knows. So that's why I'm okay. That stuff, and again, for a movie, that stuff is all okay because they didn't know. It didn't know. So I am totally okay with that. And sometimes when you don't know what you don't know, it's almost a little bit easier because you're not hampered by the way things should be, the way things we usually do things. You're not hampered by all that. You're just like, hey, we're doing this. We're doing this.
Yeah. You don't have to worry about why.
Best.
Yeah, I was going to say, you don't have to worry about why are oil riggers going to go to the asteroid? Why not astronauts? You don't have to worry about all those things. And it's we have so many movies now where they have all the science, but they just kind of ignore it, which you can understand is for the movie to let it go.
Yeah, sure.
So I feel for this, it's even easier because not only are they just letting we're suspending our disbelief, but they just didn't know.
Sure. So I mean, you could easily take a mothballed space shuttle and prep it for launch in 2 days, right? I mean, come on.
Yeah, no problem.
And this is a film that came out how many years ago? Moonfall? We're shame. We're shame for doing that. I'm sorry. Now, the other thing, when we talk about lack of knowledge of extraterrestrial bodies moving through space, the concept of a star and a planet hurtling through space, heading our way, and that the planet would probably end up in the Goldilocks zone of where the Earth is for them to make it as a new home, and for the star to keep going I don't know. We just show it blow up the Earth
Yeah,
at the end of the
there are a
film.
lot of things there that are questionable. But again, going back to
Correct.
what they may or may not, and again, this is science fiction
Mm-hmm.
and science fiction based on the actual science. So I did find while we were talking, because I wanted to remember, when did we really discover galaxies? It was a little bit earlier than I remembered. 1923. Hubble was the one
really?
that,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So it was a little bit earlier than I thought, but still, the amount of knowledge is different from today. But
Yeah.
still, I want to say even then, this was a hokey science thing. But again, okay. I mean,
Mhm.
even what was it? We talked about Space 1999, which was done in the late 70s.
Yep.
That had the explosion that like kicked the moon out of orbit. Come on, we knew better. We knew better in the. So it's sometimes, yes, you're doing crazy things for the story, and that's okay.
Right.
That's okay. That's okay.
And that's
Yeah.
that's
okay
the
with
leap of faith I think I wrote in my write-up. That's the leap
Yeah.
of faith in this. And again, since the American public wasn't really well versed in knowledge on, as we are now, from the photos we've seen from Hubble, from photos we've seen from Webb, from what we've seen from rovers and things like that, other interplanetary missions that we've sent out. Back then, you could have told them anything, the American public, and it would have seemed factual as opposed to whimsical by our
But
standards.
a science fiction movie doesn't necessarily need to seem factual, aka Star Wars, right? To work.
Yes, exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
As long as, again, I've said this before, I will say it again. Self-consistency is what matters within your story, within your universe is what matters most.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And, you need to have some stuff that holds together and the characters need to be believable. A lot of that stuff is all. Yeah.
Now,
I really liked two guys
go ahead.
in this. I liked the scene where the wealthy guy in the wheelchair is like, we need guns because when the time comes, everybody who thought you were crazy will all of a sudden want on this thing.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really interesting and well done, and a good look at just the rawness of what humanity can be in those circumstances. I thought this film did a good job of showing us what the best of humanity can be and what the worst in these situations.
Yeah,
and the
exactly.
contrast was done pretty well. It was well done. So I appreciate that aspect of this film.
Yeah.
What I also liked was, the question of who goes, and they chose a lottery system. So it was blind. No one knew. And of course, we end up with the end where the boy and the girl who are in love, one goes, one can't, and don't worry, we'll make up more flying time. Yeah, exactly.
That was not a surprise.
Knew that. But when he comes up and says, hey, here's a token, I'm not going. I'd rather be with her in death than without her in space and on another planet. And, again, those are the noble moments in this movie that gives it its heart. And of course, then the manservant grabs the coin and says, this is a token, I'm going to use it. No, just because you have one doesn't mean you get to go. It didn't really work.
Why is the pilot getting to be involved in early stage planning? Is he
like
really the best
Richard
pilot
Durr?
on the planet?
You mean
when he's recruiting the engineers or something, when he's giving that speech?
Yeah.
Like he's in the room a lot.
Yeah.
And is also helping with the speeches. Like he's obviously leading something here, and he is a pilot. Now I get that they want him to fly the ship, but which has the largest buttons I've ever seen in film history.
I love those
he's
buttons.
charismatic. I mean, so if you're doing a recruiting job, the fact that he's charismatic could be
that's a good point.
Like, we need to recruit people. How do you recruit people?
You know who I wish could have played this role, though, was Richard Durr did a great job with it. Nothing against this actor, but the whole time I'm watching this film, I'm going, I think Danny Kaye as David Randall would have been fantastic. And Larry Keating, who's been in a lot of films, who played Dr. Cole Hendren, kind of the mastermind of the rocket ship and this idea of he discovered, I would have loved to sing Bing Crosby, frankly. All I could think of was Bing Crosby and Danny Kaye as I'm watching this film going, that would have been fun.
So,
okay, I'm the only one. Whatever. It's all right. It's my
No, but
okay,
I need
but
to look these people up.
But you know that
Like Bing
that
Crosby,
Richard
I know, but what did you say? Larry King? No, not Larry King.
Danny Kaye.
Danny King. Where did I get Larry? Okay.
But Richard Dare has a Star Trek connection. He was in the original series episode. Again, now I don't magically know this. I just happened to be clicking around in the background and clicked on him. And in his page, he was on an original series episode. He was Admiral Fitzgerald in The Mark of Gideon.
I see it right. As soon as you said
Gideon.
that, I looked it up. My goodness. Okay.
Okay. There's always a Star Trek connection.
Well, we also have Dr. Boyce.
Yeah.
John Holt.
Yeah. He was the original Bones.
Original
on
Bones.
the
That's right.
on the
That's right.
Yeah. Uh-huh. And by that time he was 10 years older and a little more distinguished.
Yeah.
But that shows he can play a bad guy and a good guy if needed.
Yeah.
But he did it with the same level of like eloquence and dignity. Even though he was saying a bunch of horrible things, he said it very, I don't know what the word is, not polite, but just very like, okay, I can kind of, I don't agree with him, but he sounds nice when he's saying it.
Mm-hmm.
But I also wonder if that's also just the way they spoke in the 50s. That sounds weird, but like one thing I love about older movies is just hearing how dialogue changes. And it's, again, I don't know how to like explain it or put my finger on it, but just hearing two guys having conversation in a 1950s movie is very different than hearing two guys having conversation now.
That was something else that is interesting about watching movies from the 50s, watching anything from the 50s. I didn't really appreciate this until listening to, so William Shatner has written like multiple autobiography, like he's written several like memoir-y kind of books and autobiography books. So I don't remember which one, because I think I have listened to all of them because I do enjoy listening to him, him narrate these books in his own voice. So don't ask me which one. But in one, he's talking about when he got his start, in those days when he got his start in TV and film, and just he was trying to explain what it was like, because you have a brand new industry where most of the actors were stage actors, and translating people who knew how to act on stage to act in front of a camera was a very it was not like necessarily like I can act on the stage, therefore I can act on camera. So so ever since he said that, when I watch some old stuff, I'm like thinking like, I wonder, this almost kind of feels like maybe I'm watching a play out. And that puts it in a very different, and the acting, it puts a lot of things in a very different light when you think of it like that, if that makes sense.
No, it does make sense, because if you look back during the 1950s, Playhouse 90 and TV shows like that, they were literally plays with three cameras, and they were usually shot in very small sets, and they were done live. They were live performances. So you had stage actors who were used to doing and having a cadence in their voice, as though they're, like you said, what's that expression? You have to speak to the back of the audience, and so, yes, your cadence and your way that you speak would be more direct.
Yeah, so they acted differently than modern actors act, I guess is
which is interesting, because I was not around in the 50s, so I can't tell. Like, so maybe it is not how they spoke in the 50s, but just for the nature of it being a newer, or a combination of both.
I think that quality, the speaking quality, like there's like an accent, like an older accent that has drifted away. And the only reason why I think that that's a real thing and it's a separate thing is because if you listen to audio interviews of people back in the day, it sounds like, to me, it sounds like everybody is like a radio announcer. And to include, you listen to some of the astronauts get interviewed back in the 60s, and they have all this quality that sounds like they're all and everyone has it. It's an interesting accent, and I think it was John McWhorter. He's this guy. He's like John McWhorter is to linguistics and language what Neil deGrasse Tyson is to science.
Interesting.
And being a communicator about this. And he's written about language drift and things. And I think in one of his books also, he talked about like kind of accents changing and all that stuff over time, which I think explains that, yes, people sounded different like 70 years ago than they do today.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Again, one of my favorite films from the early 1950s is The Thing from Another Planet by Howard Hawks. And when I first saw that movie, I noticed that the way that they did the dialogue in that, if you've ever watched this movie, the dialogue is more naturally spoken, where people's level of voice goes up and down and they speak over each other. There's dialogue that happens at the same time as other dialogue. It's more naturally spoken film that have always impressed me. And it's one of the few films to me from the 50s, like you were saying, Adina, that is more naturally spoken than theatrically spoken. I guess maybe that might be the way of describing it. And now, an interesting little note that I found online, and we talk about our Star Trek tie-ins, that in the Genesis planet, there were two containers, one with the word Zyra and the other with the word Bellis written on them. So even in that movie, there was a acknowledgement of this film. So it is something that I guess, for someone who's going to film school and learning about science fiction, this is one of the movies that you probably would have watched and studied to see where the beginning of science fiction, because the prior film that George Powell did was Destination Moon and Conquest of Space. And these were films that were created to promote, well, at that time, NACA, before it became NASA.
Pre-NASA.
To promote science fiction. Excuse me, I'm sorry, not science fiction, space exploration.
Interesting.
Even Walt Disney worked very closely with Werner von Braun on his World of Color show, where they promoted and talked about the development. And actually, I remember when I went to the Smithsonian in 2009, they had the model of the rotating space station hanging from the ceiling that was used by Walt Disney for those particular things. So, you were really, in this sense, they were trying to move us forward in the knowledge of science and science, how it applied to travel to space. And I have to say, to me, there was an establishment of what the 1950s and early 60s spacecraft was supposed to be, and it was done in this movie. To me, that is one of the most beautiful spaceships of all time, with rocket engines on the wings and rocket engines in the back, and it was needle nose, and it was, to me, and it's all silver. It is absolutely one of the most beautifully designed and created.
Okay.
I know I'm selling it too much.
All silver, though. It's in Star Wars: The Phantom Menace. They have a ship that's all silver, and it's really, really pretty. I don't know if people like it, but it's gorgeous.
It's no bloody A, B, C, or D. That's all I have to say.
I will go with you on that. No, there is, and again, you talk about the groundbreaking design of a spacecraft, and the Enterprise is without a doubt something that was never in anyone's psyche of what a spaceship was supposed to look like.
I will say, I do prefer the motion picture style Enterprise from the original films, and I'm still a lover of Enterprise D. I wish we would have gotten at least one more film with that ship in it. I thought it looked gorgeous in Generations, and I was really sad. I was as sad that bit the dust as Captain Kirk.
Yeah, but you get to see it again in Picard season 3, which was a true treat.
And I'm a lover of the E, though, I will say. Like, in terms of look, I love the E, even though, of course, the D is where my nostalgia is. But the E is gorgeous.
And the D got to blow up the Death Star too in that third season of.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool. Anyways, but I digress.
That's not Worlds Collide. That's Star Trek.
We're
and
not
Star
talking
Wars.
about that.
No, but we have to bring up at least to satisfy our Trek geeks contract of mentioning Star Trek.
Yeah.
And somewhere in every episode, or we'll get sent to some
We'll get in
purgatory
trouble.
like a Star Wars page.
What? What's that even mean? Star
Nothing.
Wars page.
Anyway, I love this film, and yes, you're right.
Sure,
And,
sure.
it's short, it's to the point.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes it so well. Yes, they're able to get this all done in a relatively short period of time. And now one little final thing, and Nadina, I think you're the only one who's seen Don't Look Up.
Oh no,
I
I've
Was
seen
I?
it.
You
You
saw
guys,
that?
I thought we all. I
Oh,
saw
yeah.
it. Most of us saw it.
Has anyone? Okay.
No,
So
I haven't seen it yet.
Okay.
Okay.
So there are some similarities between the two films, to the point where launching, leaving the Earth in a craft with a selected group of people, except in Don't Look Up, it took them 28,000 years to arrive at the planet that they got to. But still the same concept of the world is coming to an end. We've got to be able to save a portion of humanity some way we could. And yes, like you said about Brian, about being like an ark, with two of every animal, but you'd end up doing that. You'd end up grabbing the seed stores that we have and taking them aboard with you. As much as the early Hawaiians, or the Polynesians who went to Hawaii, and they took with them the plants that they had from their society and samples and things like that, because to them, they were going to a new world, a new place. And I think that's a natural thing to do. So there is, these two movies are literally 70 plus years apart, but still the same similarity of
20. Oh yeah. Sorry. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah. I was going to say, so there is, this movie established something that was reused many years later. They were much more sophisticated in Don't Look Up.
Yeah, I was going to say 2012 also has that similar aspect where they literally have like giant arc ships that they're building, and they do get into the conversation that I think is really great in the movie, where it's like, okay, how do we actually pick the people that need to be on there? And a lot of people buy their way on, which becomes a plot point, and it's all about like, you can't just spend. It shouldn't be that you just spend billions of dollars to get on that arc ship. Yeah, I need to watch Don't Look Up. I want to see how they did it. But I love 2012. I know it's not everyone's favorite, but I do like it a lot for that reason, because of the arcs.
Can we spoil Don't Look Up a little bit? I mean, like, because it's been out for a few years.
Yeah,
Yes, it
I know.
has been.
It's my doing if I get spoiled on it. I'll acknowledge it.
I'll tell you, okay, the Earth doesn't blow up, okay? There you go, Fark.
Stop.
Okay. So I'm lying.
Okay. Okay. No. I guess the spoiler is what's throughout the movie. The whole thing of throughout the movie, which I would say only overlaps with this a little, is the concept that there are scientists who are saying, "Hey, look, we've got legit data that is saying this," and they're largely getting ignored. Like that's the key similar. That to me is the key similarity here.
Just getting news headlines. You're just getting news headlines,
and people are mostly ignoring them and saying, "Oh, these crazy scientists, they're just, they're crazy, they're wrong. We have data that predicts something different." Like all that. That is the similarity there.
Yeah,
and
and the main character in Don't Look Up, he doesn't survive like the main character is in this film.
Is this Leo's character?
Yeah. But it's actually, to me, it's like one of those really rare and great moments of how they decide to be together at the end of the film. It's really quite beautiful. So yeah, that's I truly enjoyed that film as well. Some many years after the original of this. So any other closing thoughts? Any other things you want to share about it? Brian, would you consider having your kids watch this? Maybe is
Oh yeah,
something.
Brody Peyton probably wouldn't be interested. She's
Mhm.
but Brody would definitely watch this with me, I think. So
Okay.
I don't know if I will, but
Okay. That's fine.
he would. So yeah,
Okay.
I no problem.
Okay. Anything else from Adina,
I don't think
Chris?
so.
Otherwise,
I
we'll
just
we'll
wish it
yes.
was a little longer, surprisingly. I actually loved how short and to the point it was, but I kind of
Mhm.
felt like I would have liked it if the ending the world stuff happened a little bit sooner or we had a bit more time with it. Because I
Mhm.
loved I liked all
Mm.
the effects. I thought, oh man, the tidal wave stuff, like that was actually pretty good for the time.
And that
I
was
would have liked
reused
a
in
bit
other
more.
films. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would have liked maybe a bit more of them dealing
Mm.
with the impacts of all that stuff going on.
Hmm.
Um, maybe, but yeah, overall, I liked it. I loved again. I
Well,
liked that the movie respected our time, and I wish
Very
more
watch
good.
movies would
don't
do that. An hour and
Don't Look
30
Up.
minutes.
I think you need to watch Don't Look Up.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I
Based
Yeah,
on
think
what
no, I
you're
know
that's.
I
looking
do.
for, you should watch Don't
Hmm.
Look Up.
I will
Yeah,
say Chris is all about the death and destruction over there.
I do love the death
He
and
wants to see
destruction.
more of it for sure
More
in
of
all of
it,
his films.
but don't kill the dog.
And that's right. Yeah.
Like
Yes.
Independence
I'm
Day. Got to
just
bring that up.
I'm just teasing, of course, Chris.
Uh-huh.
But I will say if I was frustrated about anything in this film besides that terrible matte painting at the end,
Yeah.
um, they had enough time. Like the film was short enough. They could have given us 10 minutes on the planet.
Yeah.
Hmm.
They could have, and now that would have cost a lot more money with different sets and everything. But I would have appreciated. Maybe what I'm looking for is even just and a lot of times in films they'll give you a little more of that story just in text at the end, or you
Hmm.
have like films based on reality, and then they do those follow up texts with pictures of how people,
Hmm.
even if
Hmm.
they would have done something like that, to talk about surviving. I mean, it's not like I'm not going to lose sleep over this. Don't get me wrong, guys.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have minded a few extra minutes on the planet.
Eh,
Yeah,
I'm
I think
okay.
so
Well, the
too.
thing is,
Actually,
a few extra minutes. I don't know what that really.
I mean, it would have given some crazy gnarly monster time to gobble up somebody,
I think
and
that's
then
at the
then
end.
it's the end.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
like
I,
something
I
like that, or I don't know.
I don't know. I would have liked some discussion around like what's the plan on the planet, like just to see, or maybe I don't know. But I feel like some extra
We're
time
just
there
gonna
would be
take these
nice.
animals out with us. That was the
Yeah, we're
plan.
just
That
gonna
was
and
the
do
plan.
what?
Yeah.
What's your plan?
I mean,
What are you
similar
doing?
to how that the book had a sequel of what was happening. What kind of they eventually did. Maybe they did have this thought that, well, hey, we'll have a sequel.
Yeah. I believe that
Yeah,
Which
again, that was something
that
that
would make
was
sense.
planned was to make a sequel to the film. They just never got around to be able to do
Oh,
it.
really?
Yeah, yeah.
Way
It
back
was
then, they would plan like that.
well because there was a secondary book to it. There was After Worlds
Oh,
Collide,
okay.
and so there was material to work from that they could have done that. But I guess that's it for the moment. So yeah,
And it's a good thing they didn't announce it in the movie like they did with Buckaroo. I keep wanting to say
yeah, Buckaroo
Banzai. What's
Banzai. Yeah,
Banzai? Where it's like,
come
oh,
and see
World
the
of
next
Crime coming
film.
out.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, we'll pull the rug
Nope.
out from underneath you, kids. Yeah. Um. So again, we close by always doing the Brian Donahue 5-star rating system. Copyright Brian Donahue 2026 AD.
Yeah.
In order of alphabetical, starting with Adina. Out of 5 stars, what do you give this film?
Oh, this is a hard one. I want to say in between like a 3.5 to 4.
That's very nice. Very nice.
It is hard because it is such an old film. And so
Yeah.
rating it in accordance with the time it was released,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? Like that is
Mhm.
always a hard task. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna give this, as far as science fiction films go of the time, 3.5.
Also very nice.
Because it has some deep things. It has some really intriguing thoughts in it and ways they chose to go about this. So 3.5, solid 3.5.
Okay, Chris.
I'd say probably a 4 for me. I liked it a lot. I don't know if it's one that I'm going to watch again and again, but I thought, considering the time, considering it is 1951, they did a really good job. I was hooked. I thought it moved very well, and it was a complete story. So I'd say probably a 4.
It would have gotten a 5 from me if they didn't have that stupid ending with the matte painting. So because
One of the
that,
fastest endings,
right? So because of that, it gets a 4 from me. Because also, I think, Brian, you hit on a good point. I also, when I saw this as a film as a kid, I wanted to see them on the planet. I wanted to see a little bit more. And that's why when I got to read the books, I got the little bit more by reading the second book after reading From Worlds Collide. So, well, with that in mind, then I'm going to end by saying it's the end of the world as we know it. Yet, that song is so very special for a number of reasons. The end of human existence has been around in films for many years. Mostly it has to do with our meddling, usually a nuclear war like in Dr. Strangelove or On the Beach, or a potential lethal virus or a zombie apocalypse film. Even in alien invasion films like Independence Day or War of the Worlds, humanity wins out and we survive. But a film where we all go together when we go was a big deal. And as I mentioned earlier, from 1951, that's something amazing, especially at the time of post-World War II America. And very dramatic. So I hope our listeners will take the time to seek out this movie and see it for themselves. It is part of the landscape of film history. And with its beautiful color and effects, it is a lesson in how they used to make sci-fi films. And I really wish you'll check out the list of other films by the great George Powell. He's the standard for what makes a great sci-fi film great. And once again, to our listeners, thank you for joining us on the Big Sci Fi Podcast as we look at the past, the present, and the future of science fiction. And we love it. And we know you love it as well. And as always, I leave you with these parting words from another sci-fi film classic, The Thing. Look to the skies, live long and prosper.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Big Sci Fi Podcast. We're a proud part of the Trek Geeks Podcast Network, and you can listen to more of our over 150 episodes at trekgeeks.com. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel now. Until next time, live long and prosper.